Yes guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Bright and this is the Bright Show Podcast Boxing. Now if you guys would remember, last week I talked about this particular video. It was an article on Boxing Now 24 where I went into detail about Moses Itauma turning down the IBF Eliminator fight against Frank Sanchez. And of course, I went on to talk about the fact that this could be Frank Warren's decision not to put Moses Itauma in there with someone that could be dangerous as Frank Sanchez. However, just on the 7th of October, which is about 2 days ago, Sky Sports just reported an exclusive news, and that is Daniel Dubois has accepted to fight Frank Sanchez for the IBF Eliminator title. Now this is an article on Sky Sports right now and is titled Daniel Dubois is targeting Alexander Usyk's IBF title after final Eliminator fight against Frank Sanchez. Look, on this channel I feel like I've been fair with Daniel Dubois. I have given Daniel Dubois his credit when he deserves it. I have given Daniel Dubois criticism when he deserves it. And I'm just going to say it here, I think this is definitely credit to Daniel Dubois for stepping up when Moses Itauma and his team decided not to go that route. Because of course, Frank Warren is building Moses Itauma up to be a massive star in the heavyweight division. But Daniel Dubois, he knows that he's been there, he's done it, he wants to be there again. And this is an opportunity for him to get back into world title contention after his devastating loss to Alexander Usyk. So, props and credit to Daniel Dubois for stepping up and taking this Eliminator challenge with Frank Sanchez. Look, right now, if I look at the landscape of the heavyweight division, Alexander Usyk has got all the 4 belts and he reigns supreme. I think Alexander Usyk is going to come back for one more fight, maybe 2. But I think he's going to come for one more fight and hopefully it is the Joseph Parker fight after Joseph Parker fights Fabio Wardley. And then I think that's it for Alexander Usyk. I think Usyk will hang it up. Maybe Turki Al-Sheikh is going to try and get Alexander Usyk versus Tyson Fury, which a lot of people, including myself, have no interest in seeing because Usyk has beaten Tyson Fury and we don't need to see that again. So I think, and I hope, it's going to be Joseph Parker and then Usyk hangs it up. And then the belt will be separated and they will be everywhere. And I think Daniel Dubois definitely stands a chance of fighting for the heavyweight title again if he can go through Frank Sanchez and become the winner of that fight. So it is a great opportunity for Daniel Dubois. Of course, recently we saw that Daniel Dubois had sacked Don Charles, which was his trainer that he had won the world championship with. It is rumoured that he's going to be with Tony Sims. I have recently seen Daniel Dubois in a gym with Conor Benn, who is trained by Tony Sims. So I think that rumour is definitely true. And Daniel Dubois very soon is going to announce it. But it's really good to see that Daniel Dubois has got the intention to get back into title contention, has got the intention to become 2-time heavyweight champion, because that's what he's always said that he wants to become after his loss to Usyk. So that's really good to see. Now, with this fight between Daniel Dubois and Frank Sanchez, I would actually make Daniel Dubois the favourite. And that is not because I think Daniel Dubois is far better than Frank Sanchez, but I think Daniel Dubois has fought at a much higher level than Frank Sanchez. And Daniel Dubois has fought the likes of Usyk. Any fighter that fights Usyk needs to learn something. Whether it's a win, whether it's a defeat, fighters do learn from defeats. And I hope that Daniel Dubois, with his fights against Usyk and Anthony Joshua and Big Baby Miller and all these guys, I hope he's learned something at the top level, because fighting Usyk doesn't get any better. So whether he lost, which he did, he should still learn something from that fight. And I think Daniel Dubois can bring a lot of experience against Frank Sanchez, which Frank Sanchez does not have. Now, of course, when it comes to the pros and cons of both fighters and their styles and how this fight will play out, that is something that we're going to break down as the fight gets announced and as we get underway to see that fight. But when looking at both fighters, Daniel Dubois, we all know who he is. We know he hits hard. We know he has a very good jab. We know that Daniel Dubois, can really fight. He can get in there and he can have a fight. But one thing that we know about Daniel Dubois is that when things get hard, when he's put under pressure, when it's time to deliver, when it's time to prove everyone wrong in terms of being resilient, overcoming the mental struggle, that is something that Daniel Dubois finds it really hard to do. So whether someone like a Frank Sanchez has the ability to put Daniel Dubois into a situation where his mental toughness, where his resilience is tested again, that is yet to be seen. But it looks like a really interesting fight. It looks like a promising fight that both fighters, whoever wins that fight would go on to have a world title fight in the near future. Frank Sanchez, on the other hand, at some point he was touted to be the next big thing in the heavyweight division. I read an article and I heard that Frank Sanchez was calling out Anthony Joshua a few years back, and that fight did not materialize. He's a good fighter. He's a decent fighter. The last time he stepped up, we all saw what happened. Agit Cabello absolutely destroyed him. Now, a lot of people talked about the fact that Frank Sanchez was coming into the fight with an injury. That is not something that you can bring up. You can't make excuses. You lost. I think Agit Cabello is one of the best fighters. Definitely top 5 heavyweight currently. So there's no shame in losing to Agit Cabello. So I'm not buying the excuse of Frank Sanchez having any injuries coming into that fight. He lost fair and square, and that's that. But I think Agit Cabello showed the blueprint to beating Frank Sanchez. And I think Daniel Dubois and his team can definitely learn from that fight between Cabello and Frank Sanchez and how Cabello went about diffusing and destroying someone like Frank Sanchez. Now, Daniel Dubois is not well known for his body punches. Daniel Dubois is known for his head hunting. He goes into a massive attack and then he forgets that the other fighter can hit back. Daniel Dubois most of the time will neglect his defense when he goes in attack, and that makes him very vulnerable. So maybe that is also an opportunity for Frank Sanchez to land something really hard on Daniel Dubois. It is an interesting fight if you look at it from that perspective, and that is something, as I said, we will break down as the fight gets made. But a very interesting news, Daniel Dubois steps up whilst Moses Itauma decides to reject this fight because he wants to go a different route, which to me, it seems as though they're trying to build Moses Itauma gradually, get him bigger fights with less risk so that he can build his resume and his record. And of course, ultimately, he wants to become a heavyweight champion of the world. So it will be interesting to see how Moses Itauma is maneuvered to the world title. But for Daniel Dubois, it is good to see that he wants to compete again. He wants to get in the ring. I'm interested to see if Daniel Dubois has learned anything and if he is going to be a better fighter than he was previously. Because when you have losses, you have to learn from them. And Daniel Dubois has fought the best and has lost. And I hope he's learned from it and he can bring something new into the ring. You guys get in the comment section and let me know what you think about this potential fight. Daniel Dubois stepping up against Frank Sanchez. Don't forget to support the channel, hit the like button, subscribe, and leave your comments in the section below. And I'll see you guys on the next one.